Hello everyone. I want to spend a little time on this Fallback Friday practicing drawing circuits with you. I know we went over it in class before we dispersed the last time, but we hadn't gotten a chance to look at the number of examples I would like to. And so I want to go ahead and look at a few problems on your drawing circuits worksheet together. I know we assigned this on Tuesday, or I assigned this on Tuesday, but I will also count this as today's assignment. So if you're done with it, good job. You don't have anything new to do today. If you're not done with it, you can watch here and maybe get some help if you're having some problems. We're not going to go through all of these together, so if you find others that you have questions about, please feel free to ask, and I'll be glad to help you with those. So to start off here, we're going to look at number 7, and we're just going to focus on the back side, the drawing circuit side. So number 7 says to draw a series circuit with one light bulb and one resistor. So the first thing I always like to draw when drawing a circuit is my voltage source. You want to make sure you label it with your positive and negative, positive always on the long side. And then I'm going to start drawing my wire. Because this is a series circuit, that means everything is in line. There's only one path. The current has to flow through every device. So it doesn't really matter how I draw it. I just know I'm going to have the one loop. And so I want to go ahead and just pick a place to put one, pick a place to put the other, and I'll be good to go. The question also doesn't specify the order, so I'm just going to pick one, and I'm going to put the light bulb first. So I'll go ahead and put the light bulb along the top here. And remember, a light bulb is a squiggle with a circle around it, or a loop around it. Then I'm going to go on, maybe I'll go ahead and make my turn. I'll do a squiggle here. That's for my resistor. At this point, I've got the elements that the question is asking for, so I can just connect my wire back to my voltage source. Remember also that you want to draw in your current loop, and we consider it as if positive charge is flowing, so we draw it from the positive side to the negative side, as positive charges would repel each other and opposite charges attract. Remember, when drawing a circuit, what matters is the order of the elements, not exactly what it looks like. So I could draw it like this, but it would be the exact same as if I drew it like this. Still going to start with my voltage source. I'm going to draw up. And maybe I decide to draw both of them along the bottom for whatever reason. Because it goes voltage source, light bulb, resistor, back to voltage source. That's the same as here, voltage source to light bulb to resistor, back to voltage source. These two drawings represent the exact same circuit. Again, I would want to draw in my current loop, and then I would be done. You wouldn't need to draw this multiple ways. You just need to draw it one. I just wanted to do a couple to show you for an example there. Another example here with number 8. Draw a parallel circuit with 2 light bulbs. So remember, a parallel circuit now means it's going to branch out. There's going to be 2 pathways. And so we're going to take a look at it here and show the 2 different ways we talked about drawing this. So if we have a parallel circuit, again, we're always going to start off with our voltage source. And with a parallel circuit, we need to draw in a branch. So maybe I draw that branch when I make the turn here on the right-hand side. So I put one there, and then I have one that keeps going. At this point, the current would have 2 options about what path to follow. So we know there are now multiple loops. It is now a parallel circuit. In each of these branches then, I'm going to put a light bulb. as that is what the question asks for. And then I'm going to bring them back together. Once they're back together, I can continue on to my voltage source. I now could have the current take a path from voltage source, turn down here, go through this light bulb, and then back to the voltage source. Or I could have the current follow a path up and over, going straight at the branch there, coming down through this light bulb, and going back to the voltage source. Either way works because there are two pathways and it doesn't have to go through both of these light bulbs. That now is in parallel. And we would have then two loops to show where the current could flow. We showed in our notes another example of how you could go about drawing a parallel circuit and showing that branching. So I'll do that one as well here. We're again going to start with our voltage source, so a positive and our negative. And this time I'm going to make the turn on the right hand side and then do the branching. You also wouldn't have to put the branching lined up with that right hand side. You could do it along the top, along the bottom, whatever. That's just the way I like to do it. Especially when I've just got that parallel element and I don't have a bunch of other things to draw in the circuit as well. So then I'm going to draw my two light bulbs. Bring those back together and then connect back to my voltage source. Again, the key thing to keep in mind is how they are connected and the order they're connected. I can go voltage source, trace a pathway where I take this left-hand side, go through this light bulb, and then back. Or I can trace a path where I go down this right-hand side and through this other light bulb, and then back to my voltage source. That's the same as my pathway options over here. And so that means these are the exact same circuit, even though they look different. Again, I can draw in two current loops over here now. Keeping in mind that the directions tell you that you do need to be drawing in the current loop here to show the direction of current flow on every problem. So you want to make sure you include that part. Going on to another one here. Number 10, let me get my camera set here, there we go. Says draw a parallel circuit with two resistors and a switch before the two branches split off. So I'm going to do a parallel circuit again, but I'm going to have an element in there before it branches off, which really puts that switch in series with those parallel resistors. Let me show you what that looks like. So we're going to start with our voltage source, just like always. I'm going to start up. I'm going to do my branching over here on the right-hand side again, just like I said I prefer to do. So according to the directions, I want to switch before that point. So I'm going to go ahead and put a switch along the top here. If it doesn't specify otherwise, I generally like to draw the switches open because I think that's a little easier to see them then. And maybe this time I will do my branching by doing it at the turn here. Again, you could do it either way. It works out the same. So I got my two branches. The directions tell me there are two resistors in parallel. So I've got one resistor in each branch. Again, the way that wording works, what that means is you have two resistors where the current only passes through one of them. It has to choose one or the other. When they're in those separate paths where it has to pick, That's what makes them in parallel. So I'm going to bring those back together then, and continue on back to my voltage source. I would again draw in my current loops here. I again have two options. I have voltage source, switch, resistor, back to voltage source, or voltage source, switch, continue on straight here, go down through this resistor, back to the voltage source. Because in either pathway I have to pass through this switch, that switch is in series with these two resistors. Because you have to pass through it. When you have to pass through it, there's no other option. That's what makes it in series. So I'm going to draw in my first current loop and my second current loop. The final two I want to look at here are numbers 14 and 15. It says draw a combination circuit. That really just means that there's elements of series and parallel circuits in there. So in reality, 10 was kind of a combination circuit as well. The combination circuit ones here I meant as challenge questions, so if you didn't get them right away, that's fine. The original goal was when we were in class, we would have looked at these together before this was due, and I would not have asked a question about a combination circuit on a test or quiz on this material. So it's not something I expect you to be perfect with. It's just meant to show you how you can start putting these together into more complex circuits. With that said, let's go ahead and look at 14 and 15 here. And even though they are these kind of challenge questions, I do expect you to have answers for them on your worksheet when you turn it in. Number 14 says to draw a combination circuit with two light bulbs in parallel with each other, but in series with a third light bulb. So it doesn't tell me anything about the orientation of it, whether the third light bulb comes before or after the branching. So I could do it either way. Last time I showed the switch before the two branches split off. So maybe this time I'll show the switch, or show the series element after the branching occurs. I'm going to start off with my voltage source. And then start up and I'm going to branch off here into my two pathways. Again, it says I have two light bulbs that are in parallel with each other. So what that means is I have those two light bulbs making two pathway options. So I'm going to have option 1 on the left here with one light bulb, option 2 on the right here with another light bulb. This time I decided to do the splitting after I made the turn, since I did it in the turn with number 10. I'm going to bring that back together. And remember, what it means when it's in series with a third light bulb is the current has to pass through that light bulb. So that means after I bring it back together, then I'm going to put a third light bulb before I get back to the voltage source. So now my pathway options are voltage source, take the left path through one light bulb, back together through this light bulb, back to the voltage source. Or voltage source through the right-hand light bulb, back together, back through this same light bulb, and back to the voltage source. These two light bulbs are in parallel with each other because the current doesn't have to pass through both of them. It goes through one or the other. This light bulb is in series then because the current does have to pass through it. It's the only pathway available to it. Again, we have two paths. So two potential current loops. Finally then, number 15. Draw a combination circuit with a resistor and a light bulb in parallel, but with both in series with a switch and another light bulb. So And if I look through here and read through this, I've got a resistor and a light bulb that are in parallel. Well, that's going to be pretty similar to the last one where I had 2 light bulbs in parallel. But both of those are now in series with a switch and another light bulb. I could split up the switch and the light bulb, put one before, one after the splitting, or the branching. But it's up to me, the question doesn't specify. So maybe I decide to put them both before, since we put the light bulb after last time. So I've got my voltage source here. I've got my wire coming out, and maybe I go ahead and put my switch here. And maybe this time, just to show you how it can look a little different, we'll go ahead and make the turn. And is it a light bulb or a resistor? It's a light bulb, so I'll go ahead and put a light bulb here. And then maybe I'll do the branching in the bottom part here so you can see that that can happen anywhere you want around the circuit. Again, the thing that matters is the order that they're connected in. So I'm going to split here. And if I look, what are the things in parallel? I have a resistor and a light bulb. So I'm going to have 2 squiggles. One of those squiggles just gets a loop around it. I'm going to bring these back together and connect that back to my voltage source. So now the pathways I have are voltage source, through switch, through light bulb. Again, no option about the path for those. That's what makes that switch and that light bulb in series. There is no other pathway available for the current to flow through. And then it's going to come down here and split out. And in pathway 1, I've got light bulb back to voltage source. In pathway 2, I have resistor back to voltage source. Because there are 2 options there, and some of the current's going to go one way, some's going to go the other. It doesn't pass through both of these. That's what makes that resistor and that light bulb in parallel then. Again, I can draw in my current loops here. Got loop 1 with the light bulb and loop 2 with the resistor. Again, if you have any further questions related to this, please ask. I'll be glad to help you. And if not, and you've already turned this in, or if you haven't turned this in, again, this one worksheet is going to count for both Tuesday and Friday's assignments. Have a good weekend.